Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, my good friend, Jim Stam. How you doing, brother?
Dude, what's going on? We got Richie Rich back in the house, and opening day's supposed to be fun, guys. What the hell happened? I go to a baseball practice. It's 4-1. I hand it off to you guys, and look, I come back and we lost.
Well, that's how Paul Skenes feels right now. So that's right from the Golden State of California. Our good friend Rich Thompson joins us. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. I mean, and to celebrate the Golden State visitor we have, the Pirates tossed a golden shower on opening day. It was ugly, man. It looked at the beginning like it was going to be a no-hitter for Sandy Alcantara. And it was not, thankfully. The Pirates did get to him. Paul Skenes struggled with, I would say, putting guys away today. The Marlins were scrappy at the plate, a lot of long at-bats, a lot of foul balls. Not a lot of great contact off of him or anything, but he walked a couple guys, I think, somewhat out of frustration almost, just about how tired he was of throwing pitches to these guys that were just fouling everything off, no matter what he tried. So the at-bats got deep on him. He only lasted 5.1 innings, gave way to Dennis Santana, who has been super awesome. And what did he do? He walked a couple guys and struck out one and ended up getting pulled for Ryan Baracki, who finally saved the day, but they did manage to add another run to Paul Skenes' column. Caleb Ferguson was clean. Colin Holderman, not so much. David Bednar, not so much. Jim, why do I feel so much better about everyone in the bullpen but the guys I'm supposed to feel great about? The back end guys are supposed to be the ones you don't worry about.
Yeah, it's like the depth might be a little better, but when you got to hand it off to a couple dudes that you kind of you must have that has been shaky, and that's not, this looks like just last year all over again and the things we were worried about. So, hey, for 5 innings, they got exactly what you want. A good pitching outing from Paul Skenes, timely hitting, Brian Reynolds with a nice bases loaded hit, Nick Gonzales before he blew a tire out on a home run trot. And then, it's just when there's stuff to worry about, you'd like not to have to see it pop up in game one. Defense,
everything,
situational fielding, the bullpen, like all of it just reared its ugly head in game one.
Immediately. And Rich, it was apparent almost from the beginning, right? Paul Skenes, I'll say a good start because, he got through 5 innings and honestly, it wasn't the end of the world how he left the game. 7 strikeouts. How can you say that's bad for 5 innings of work, right? But this wasn't vintage Paul Skenes. This wasn't peak Paul Skenes. This isn't the best we're going to see. Still, to already see the bullpen waste a Paul Skenes start where he leaves the game with a 4-1 lead and have it turn into that, you got to hope that's not a tone for the season, right?
Yes, you do, but I'm not sure if it's going to be or not. It doesn't lend a lot of confidence right off the get-go. I know there's 161 games left, but I'd like to see at least something a little better from Bednar, than an infinite ERA after game one.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe you can tell, but I'm trying to hold Bednar for segment 2 because I have a feeling that's going to spawn a whole bigger conversation when we start talking about him, because I think he had a short leash already, and it's starting to look like maybe Colin Holderman should too.
Well, let me go back to one thing you did say, Gary, about Paul Skenes and it's really interesting because I know we've got plenty of time to talk about the Bednar situation. You mentioned about Skenes and like getting deep in his pitch count and guys being able to kind of battle and run that pitch count up. If there's any little chink in his armor, it's that, right? Like guys have done that with him, and it's kind of weird because guys don't square anything up off of him, but they do seem to be able to get like pieces of it. It doesn't it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, plus then you factor in, he's a strikeout pitcher and he's working for those strikeouts and whatnot. But we've seen this a little bit from him, and it's just kind of an odd thing for me to where a guy that you can't put a barrel on, but you can seem to just kind of like survive and get your 9 pitch at bat sometimes.
Did you watch any of the pregame at all?
No,
today?
I did not.
I mean, if you have Pittsburgh Sportsnet, the pregame, Stephen Brault was talking. Stephen Brault, first of all, last year, he had a lot of really insightful things to say that to the point where like you were like, are you going over to the stadium and telling them these things, please? Because they're not listening to, to anyone else who seems to understand what they're seeing. Well, he was doing it again today. He was talking about Paul Skenes. He's like, as a pitching coach, you almost have to walk up to him and be like, let's find out how to throw this pitch worse. Because it's too good. You have to throw something worse to get some contact every once in a while. You know what I mean? So they're trying to find ways to like almost downgrade some of his pitches, or at least give him the ability to decide to downgrade a pitch here and there. And that's going to be a whole completely different journey with a pitcher than I think I've ever watched play out. Yeah, I've never seen anything like that.
You want to talk about an art form? That is like, he's dead on. And no, I didn't see it, but I think that plays right into what we were just talking about, which is, sometimes like he needs better contact on things because it's just too good of a pitch.
Yeah. I mean, no news is good news with Paul Skenes, but Rich, we were talking a little bit before we started here. If this team's going to do anything, Paul, you got to win the games Paul Skenes tees up for you, right? You got to figure those 30 games, you better take most of them.
Yep. And it's just not a good start today for that, but they got to take advantage of that when he starts, when Jones comes back and Jones starts, you got to take advantage of those because, they're going to give up at best, maybe usually 3 to 4 runs, on an so outing that you should be able to win against anybody. Honestly, you only give up like say 2 or 3 runs. You should be able to score 4 runs to win a game.
That's a great segue. In fact, let's start segment 2 with that, Jim, because the offense, as much as it sputters, did exactly what the formula of this team says they have to do to win. They've got to find a way to turn 4 runs into wins, or this team is going absolutely nowhere.
It looked good for a second.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We're going to talk a little bit more about the offense. Before we do that, Jim, I want to make sure early in the show here, I show everybody our brand new offer for Call Your Shot, because we're going to do a Call Your Shot, and then we're going to show you how Call Your Shot is going to change for this show here real soon. All right, call your shot tonight is our friend Taylor from shopyins.com. It just says, is Shelton worse at managing pitchers than Tomlin with challenges? It's a joke, but the reason that we're bringing it up right now is because we have a new way of doing call your shot. From now on, you're going to head over to shopyins.com, and Taylor's going to have a nice little form right there on the homepage, and all you have to do is go in and tell him your name, enter your call your shot, and your contact information. Every Wednesday, he's going to pick one and send it to me. That's the one we'll read. And then you will get one of these awesome custom designed call your shot Shopyins Pirates Fan Forum shirts to wear around absolutely free. Taylor will send it out immediately. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I like that. I like that a lot. I want to, those shirts are going to be cool.
You should probably call your shot then at some point.
It's better than my big ugly mug on a shirt. So
honestly, though, I don't think that Shelton is better at handling a bullpen than Tomlin is at handling timeouts. It's the bane, man. It's the worst thing about Derek Shelton. It's just stubborn allegiances to things. Now, like, the thing is, my suggestion was going to be like, why are you trying to use Dennis Santana so early in the game? He's proven to be one of your back end guys, I would think, right now. But he didn't perform well in his role, and Holderman didn't perform well in the other role. So, like, it probably doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, well, one of the first things I thought of whenever I came back and saw what happened and then looked at like the pitching and how it unfolded was I was surprised Santana was kind of first out the gate.
Yeah,
I was too.
And I'm sure there was a matchup thought in there somewhere, but little curious today for the first game.
So the offense, we kept saying, where's the offense going to come from, right? And we talked about like how many runs we thought they were going to have to score and how they're going to struggle. And this is going to be a team that wins on pitching. So a team that wins on pitching, you should be able to win most games that you score 4 runs in, right? And here we have on the game one an example of their inability to make that stand up. That's the bare minimum for this bullpen, right? You get handed, let's call it a 2-run lead, because Paul's charged with 2 runs, regardless of how it played out. He left with a 2-run lead with 4 innings left to cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. That should be a win. I mean, that has to be a win on this team. If it isn't, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
No, I agree. And, something that worries me is it going to get to the point early on where Shelton just doesn't have any idea of who to pick to begin with? You know what I mean? Like, if none of them are pitching all that well, then you're really just throwing a dart at a dartboard. And we've seen them in that position before. I don't want to overreact. It's one game, but yeah, pretty much a disaster on all fronts. Offensively, I'm looking at things. They got 7 walks today. Like I would have thought they would have been able to do a little bit more, but when you only have 4 hits, 7 walks might not do you a lot of good. I see Cruz, Bart, McCutchen that's your 3, 4, 5 hitters were 0 for 12.
Right. I mean, Reynolds had the big hit tonight with the bases loaded. That was probably the money shot. Nick Gonzales 2-run homer. So a couple nice timely hits, but you're right. They left a lot of guys on base. The walks are nice. They just don't have a whole lot of stops on this bus track where you're going to run into one. And Rich, I mean, it was a problem tonight. You could tell, like, it looked for a minute there like Sandy was on his way to no hitting them for as long as he could last in this game.
Yeah. And,
and then it turned around.
Yep. With Alcantara, he's one of those pitchers. I mean, he's coming back from the injury and so forth, but he's still, before his injury, is one of the best in the National League. So you start get that ball rolling like that, you're like, oh God, what's going to do now? And give a little hope scoring those couple runs with Reynolds hit and then Gonzales home run and so forth. It's like, okay, maybe there is hope here. Got Alcantara out, we're into the bullpen. Hey.
No, we don't have any kind of update, Jim, on Nick Gonzales. First, the home run that he hit, boy, it was like maybe 6 inches in off the plate. I don't even know how he got to it. Like, good for him that he has that kind of bat speed. Honestly, I think that was one of the things that we didn't see an awful lot of from Nick last year. He wasn't trying to pull balls at all. Everything he was doing was going the opposite field. I think he was so afraid of that breaking pitch away when he came back up last year. And the way he changed, it turned him into a serviceable player. But I think for him to be full-blown Nick Gonzales, like everything he could be, he's got to be able to pull the ball in the air a little bit. So it was good to see him turn on a pitch like that. I don't think I'd advise having a guy want to take a hack at that pitch, normally, but good for him that he got it. Now, if he's injured, because the Pirates called it a recurring ankle injury, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means he's been dealing with it like all spring, or if it was bothering him at different parts of the game and they just decided like, hey, let's just chill. But if that's something that like causes him to have to go on the IL, we're not going to see like a string of Adam Frazier, are we? Wouldn't they go to the next guy? Like, wouldn't it be Nick York next?
Rich, I'll let you take that one.
They would call up York. I think they'd call up York, but I have a feeling just because the veteran presence, everything else, got to get Frazier out there. He's played second base in the past. I think York would just be kind of riding the bench. I think Shelton would actually go with Frazier. He's on this team for whatever reason. Shelton's going to use him when he has an open opportunity like that would be. I think he's going to be using Frazier quite a bit, which is just not going to be pleasant.
I fear you could be right. And my argument for that would be the reason Nick York is in the minors is probably because you want him to get at bats.
Yes.
So I would think that it would be a perfect situation to let him try to warm to the task there at second base. They did it with Triolo. Why wouldn't you do it with York, Jim?
My guess is, I think you're right in the sense, first thing you said, which was if they felt Nick York needed to go down and get more seasoning, this doesn't change that. You know what I mean? Like that's how they view Nick York. Frankly, I think they value him enough to want to make sure that he is ready when he is called. Yeah. A lot of people can dispute that, say he is ready, and that they should be now turning the page to can't always play for tomorrow, can't always, wait. I get all that, but I do think that's why. Could they just plug Triolo in at second base?
I guess they could, but you'd still need someone else, right? So, I mean, like, either way, it's going to have to be another person capable of playing middle infield. My hope would be that it's somebody that we actually care about, right? And that's why I think Nick York would be the guy that I'd want to see personally.
Definitely.
I don't know.
Now, there's something in the comments. Is that fractured ankle? Is that something that's real or is that speculation?
I don't know. That's why I'm stuttering. So I'm trying to look it up before I just claim that it's true. I don't know. I haven't heard anything official, and I don't see anything official yet.
Okay.
But whatever it is, we'll find out soon enough. I would imagine like it's not a decision they have to make tomorrow. They usually like to let the swelling go down on something like that and then check it, and they kind of just let them hang on the bench and retroactive it if they have to. That'd be a big hurt though, because I mean Nick is a guy that you really hope can step up this year. I mean we're talking about getting Nick York on the team. I'm probably jumping the gun and skipping past the lead, which is Nick Gonzales potentially being hurt. What do you think of that, first of all? I thought he played pretty good second base tonight, even. If you watched the early part of the game, I don't know what you thought. Maybe you disagree with me. I thought Isaiah kind of looked awful at shortstop early in that game and was kind of costing Paul Skenes pitches early on. And they were failing to turn double plays because his delivery to second base is so freaking slow. I hate to quit harping on it like everything in the world is IKF's fault. It's not like that. But like when I just know what I'm looking at when I'm looking for that turn. And it's got to get there quick. You've got to give the second baseman an opportunity. You know, and I'm not seeing it.
It definitely crossed my mind on a couple of those double plays where I was like, yeah, they turned them. When I say turned them, I meant, you know, not necessarily outcome wise, but like turned them. But it just didn't have some of that quickness that you're looking for with it. Like that real like super crisp, quick turn. And you know, that was a difference on the one play. It was literally almost simultaneous foot to bag at first base. And yeah, I think we're going to be talking about IKF a good bit.
Well, that's another thing, Rich. Like, let's say that it is Adam Frazier for a minute, even if it's just, let's say, whatever. I'm seeing people in here saying it's stress fracture. I'm not seeing it anywhere yet. So when I see it, I'll say it. Sorry, no offense. I just don't see your press pass, Bill D and other people. Maybe you're telling me the absolute truth. But let's say he sits for 5 days and it's just a bum ankle. He'll be fine after a couple days. And Frazier has to play. Are you not concerned? Because as slow as IKF is at getting the ball to second base, Adam Frazier is that much slower at making the turn now at second base. I just think you don't really have a rotation that's loaded with ground ball pitchers. So if you get one and you get an opportunity to get that double play, God damn it, you better have it. Yes. I mean, like, it's scary, man, right? Like, what do you think of that combo in particular, those two? Can that be sustained?
No, I mean, pitching staff, yeah, you don't get a lot of ground balls, but you need to be strong up the middle, especially shortstop and second base. And I think IK would be the worst combination you can probably think of in ages for a Pirates double play combination, I would think. And it's just like, you know, it really, this need just better, you know, defense from that up the middle like that, especially for his pitching staff, a young pitching staff. You know, they don't get the thinking, well, I gave up a run, I'm screwed now, you know, because they can't hit, you know, and I got to be perfect with my defense behind me. You know, it's
so frustrating for me to watch, Jim, because what's the speech that Derek Shelton gives every year to the media and the players and everybody? It's been 3 years in a row now. We're going to do all the little things right. We're going to do all the little things right. All the little things right. First game of the season, I got IKF unable to turn 2 double plays, right? Makes a mistake on a dribbler and throws the ball wide to put a base runner on in the first place for Paul. Like, right? It was a weird charge. I know that the ball went like to his right, and it was
tough play, but you got to make it.
You've got shortstop make play,
right? Yes, you've got basically a rookie playing first base. You know, like he doesn't look like comfortable doing the stretches. You know, I'm sorry, he doesn't.
Well, then it's interesting. Go ahead.
You got O'Neal Cruz out in center field, and I don't expect him to get the perfect break on every ball, and I don't expect him to catch everything, but I do expect you to have at least drilled into his head when and when not to try to throw home. That's all. When and when not to try to hit the cutoff man. That's it. Like, come on. You want to talk about doing all the little things right. okay, you can't openly defy that in game one and show me that you aren't going to get any of them.
Yeah, you throw in a couple pass balls from Joey Bart just for good measure. Now, I'm not saying Paul Skenes is the easiest guy in the world to catch, but you sprinkle those things around, and it's just ironic that, like you said, Gary, which is this is all we hear from them, and we can't even get past one game without all of them being an issue.
We wanted to talk about like spring training. I brought up a question to you I wanted to talk about on the show. Maybe this is a good time because we're talking about Endy maybe not being 100% seasoned over there at first base. Well, overall, why don't teams, all teams, not just the Pirates, why don't teams treat the last few games of spring training a little bit more like you're about to play real baseball? Because every time you get to these first, second, third games of the season, these relievers are being put into situations for the very first time.
Yep.
The very first time. There's been absolutely zero indication of where they were going to come into games up until you're actually playing them. Why? Why would you not practice what you want them to do? Like, I don't understand why we're not doing that in spring training. What is the point of having all these games and paring down the players if you aren't going to actually like get ready to play games?
Yeah. Like 5 or 6 games left spring training, you pretty much know who you're going to be keeping, except maybe 1 or 2 positions.
Sure, work them in like they're bench players.
Yeah, working for like a week of the regular season. Okay, here's Skenes, here's Falter, here's Haney. Okay, we're going to bring Nicholas in at the 5th inning. Yeah, he's sending him down, but you never know. Hold him in this, or get us into the closer. Put Bednar in there or whatever. It's like, yeah, just be able to.
It's never going to feel the same because like the record doesn't matter. So like, it's not like Bednar's going to like give up a save and cry because it's the 4th spring training game from the end and he gives up a blown save. But if you get guys at least like into like some kind of a rhythm for like you're going to come into games in this kind of situation, or hey, Endy, you're going to play first base. Maybe let's play you there a little bit besides the last game. What are we doing? Like, Jim, they held firm that could not freaking happen all spring. They made a big deal it couldn't happen. And then the day before it's over, they're like, oh, yeah.
You'd think you'd want to simulate some things, right? Like, it's so funny because baseball is so nerdy about certain things, but then there are obvious things you just wonder why we don't do them anymore. And I will say this, like, if you're the Dodgers and you're heavily veteran laden and you have established guys and established, pitchers and bullpen guys, and you might not need to do that.
And
but
if
like,
you think for April, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. but if you're a younger team, you've got new pieces, you've got guys even that are younger that aren't established yet. Yeah, I would think you'd want to simulate some of that. The Endy thing, I just found it to be odd. First of all, Endy, he's such a good athlete. It would take him no time at all. But I did see today that when he stretched for one of those double plays, he had his foot in the middle of the bag.
Yeah.
On a stretch.
Right.
Like,
that's what I mean.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
He's done it one freaking time this whole off season, and they didn't let him do it in any part of his recovery.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's not fair to the player. First and foremost, forget the fans. It's just one of those things where, yeah, Gary, when you brought it up to me, I gave you a one-word answer. You're like, I think we should talk about this. I'm like, absolutely. Spring training is so weird to begin with all these like, hey, you're going to bat twice and then go do this weird thing off to the side, and pitchers are doing this weird side session, and then they come in and like I totally agree with you. I think they need to get back to, how about we just play some baseball games with what you might take the field with in a week from now.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, like, Rich, is that too much to
Yeah.
ask? I mean, I know we're in a new era where we're coddling players, but there still should be like a little bit of want to like be polished by the time you open the regular season, right? You want to be ready.
Yeah, I mean, if playing 6 or 7 games in a row in the end of spring training, like it's regular season, if those players require coddling for that, then you have the wrong players. I'm sorry. You should be able to play 6, 7 games in a row out there. No problem. It's like bullpen every other day, send Santana out there in the spring training, at the last end of spring training. Every couple days, send Holderman out there. That should be no problem.
Just
Absolutely
get them used to what's going to come. Like, I understand not blowing a lot of innings on starting pitching, Jim. Like, okay, maybe you let them top out at 5-6 innings, whatever. I can get behind that. We want to see all those bullpen options anyway, so that's fine with me. But like, just get yourself somewhat into like, this is a bad example. Again, remember, this conversation is about no teams doing it, not just the Pirates. So spare the Shelton's going to change the lineup jokes anyway. But normally you'd want to like get your lineup set and like start seeing what works, see what doesn't work, see who's got that knack, who's the one that's going to hit with runners in scoring position, who's got that feel, who understands where to hit that ball. We're just guessing. They're watching people in batting practice and throwing them together because they've either always been there or they kind of look like they should fit there, right? I just think practice with the practice games. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I would think you'd want to replicate some game feel as much as possible, especially as you get later into spring training. But baseball's gotten in this weird thing, is like all the side stuff is almost as important as when you actually have to go play. And I don't know how we got to that point with it. So, but hey, look, to be fair, we see this in the NFL. There's a different reason for it, though, because they don't want guys hurt. So literally the first couple weeks are a little bit sloppy and whatnot. But I think that hockey is even a little bit like, it takes a little bit. But I don't think baseball has to be that way. But we're certainly here. And like you said, it's not just a Pirate thing. This is just how it's done now in baseball.
I mean, we seem like we just openly accept. It's going to take hitters probably till May to really get warmed up and like get their timing back, and they're in good shape. All the pitchers are always ahead in April. All except our bullpen. But like we say those things all the time. Like, we should just accept them, right? Why do we accept them? Why are we accepting that? Why would we accept that we're going into seasons not ready? Like, for instance, it's imperative to this team, just the way it's built. This team, let's get back to this team. Forget everybody else. You've got major guys that have to show growth this year, or this team's going nowhere. O'Neal Cruz has to, right? So what did they do this spring? Shield him from playing the field as much as they possibly could. Okay, I know it's windy in Bradenton. We all know that, but you got to get him out there. He's got to play out there. Shield him from facing lefties. In fact, they pulled him out of a game against a tough lefty to send him to minor league camp to hit against easier lefties, and used having him hit lefties as an excuse. This is a guy that you need more from this year. That's what I'm saying. Why are we not training our guys to do what we actually expect or need them to do this year?
It was a great question when you sent it to me, and I think it's an interesting thing that we do kind of just accept things in sports. Seems like everything else gets questioned in baseball, and they've reinvented the wheel with everything else. So
that they have,
yeah, it's just, and then because here we are when we were in the last week of spring training, and you see some of the guys that were getting at bats. What possible purpose does that serve?
At that point, no, because it's not cute anymore. Like the last game of the year, it's no longer cute to see the Bradenton Marauders hitting to finish out your game.
Nope.
That's cute early on when you want to give one of them a shot and you're over in Dunedin and don't feel like being there. That's what that's about.
I get it. Split squad games, you have to go and those types of things, but that's not what we're talking about, obviously.
Right. I'm just saying, like, if my job relied on having certain guys step up and do better, I think I would be putting them in position to have them step up and do better.
You would think you'd want to get guys in certain situations as many reps as they possibly could get. Kutch is funny. He said he needs 10 spring training at bats. Well, that's good for Andrew McCutcheon, and I probably believe him. But
after watching him hit today, I don't believe him.
First and second year guys, get them ready. I think it's something that they should really re-examine.
I agree. All right, so there's that. Do you want to go into David Bednar, or do you want to do your poll question?
Let's do Bednar. We're cranky.
Let's do Bednar. David Bednar. Great. It's a great thing to be cranky about David Bednar.
Let the whipping begin.
Well, we wanted him on a short leash. Most of us, I think, probably didn't want him to be the nailed-on starter. They haven't named him the starter, or at closing.
The starter at closing.
Yeah, they haven't named him the closer. We don't have a lot of great alternatives, and everybody else they would have named performed terribly today. So I don't know that I can blame Shelton for it, but I will say that David Bednar does himself no favors. He's done the exact same thing all spring long, slamming these 96, 97 mile an hour fastballs in the top third of the zone, not above the zone like he used to. The curveball doesn't have the same sharp bite, doesn't have the same landing spot in the bottom of the zone where he was shocking people and bending knees. The splitter is never used anymore. He's just not the same pitcher he was, Jim. I don't know if it can get any more clear than what I'm seeing, and how long do you think it takes the team to see it?
Literally the worst possible scenario, right, for David Bednar. You couldn't dream up a worse scenario in this first outing.
A little hard luck with the ball being misplayed, but he was screwed anyway from just
he was already in deep doo-doo.
Yeah.
And clearly I've never quite seen a guy go from looking as good as he has to just his fastball is flat. I don't know what has happened to it. I don't know. I'm sure they've tried to figure that out. But it's flat.
The stats say different.
Well,
no, I'm telling you, I just had this argument with somebody last night because I said the same thing. The stats say that ball is moving.
Mm-hmm.
And the stats say it's moving as much as it ever did. The only difference is the command. He's not commanding where it goes. He used to hit that top 2-3 inches of right above the strike zone, that borderline, like it could get called if I don't swing at it. Better make a bad decision here and take a hack. That's how he got a lot of his strikeouts. That and pinpointing that curveball, like right at the bottom of the zone. He can't do either of them now. The command is what it suffered. Yeah.
Like whatever.
I mean, we had the tipping last year. Was this even about tipping? Really, Rich? I mean, or was it just he's kind of falling off the table? Like, and we didn't want him tendered, Jim.
Nope.
We talked about that. Maybe we disagreed on that. Actually, I think I wanted him non-tendered, and you wanted to give him another shot.
I don't remember, but we're past it now and we're stuck there. So maybe
Well,
it
I
doesn't matter.
just realized that I was speaking for you and I shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Point is, $6 million is a lot of money to spend on a pitcher that you might have to bury.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I typically don't just go to this, but Daryl even put it. He said in the comments, Bednar has the yips. His confidence has been shattered. I think Bednar said something pretty telling in spring training when he was off to the side and getting interviewed after an outing.
I know
And
where
he
you're
said
going.
about
too.
I have to remind myself that I'm a good pitcher again, and I credit him for saying that out loud,
Yeah.
but that's a confidence thing right there. And it surprised me that he said it out loud. That tells me that it's shaken him a bit. And some guys find a way to get back on the horse and figure it out, and some guys don't. We're in critical mass situation with him right now, though, I think.
The
And
other
that's
thing
why-
that's happened. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
And that's why I think, it's easy. Okay, we'll take Bednar out of the closer role and put in Nicholas, call it Nicholas Spinneman, or put Holderman in. You're asking a young guy who's never been in that closer position before, it's just not easy. It's like, okay, I'm going to be a closer now. Hey, I'm going to be Mariano Rivera. I'm going to be Bruce Sutter. It's like, no, it's not that simple. You see what happens to Bednar, you can just, if it's just not as easy as people might make it out to be, You always see
It's
closers
true.
come
As
in
much
the
as
inning, give up runs, you're like, there's something to pitching in the ninth inning. Something
Closer
as much as we want to pretend it's just any other inning, it's not, right?
Yeah. There's something out there in the baseball stadium that makes ninth inning just a different animal.
And Nicholas probably
I do
walks too
agree with
many
that.
guys to ever be a closer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to clean that up first.
Go with the Mitch
Yeah.
Williams route, just be, scarily wild, It's like, okay.
But Rich, to your point, I do think like everything with baseball, things get built up, and then for whatever reason, baseball, we like try to tear it down where saves aren't all that important, and you can do it this way, and 3-run saves are garbage and whatever. It really just comes back to, you kind of have to be the dude. Being the dude's not always easy, and we've seen guys implode. We've seen bullpens implode. So, I do think there's some merit to that not everybody's suited for it. And Chapman, look at Aroldis Chapman. I think he's a great example over the years of, you would think on paper he'd be a good closer, or he would have been at certain times. Never quite worked out that way.
Nope.
Again, I think there's another guy that probably walks too many people to ever be an elite closer. I think that's ultimately part of the big problem there. I think another thing that happened to David Bednar is kind of league wide, and this kind of is really the last half decade. You've seen pitching staff start to adjust to the way to attack the launch angle problem is to pitch high in the zone, because guys can't get to it with their swing plane, right? So we've seen him kind of get caught up to by the league, as so many pitching staffs are trying to do that. Well, now what David does isn't all that much different from what everyone else is doing.
That's true.
By the way, he's not doing it as well as he used to, and guys are practicing against it now all the time because everybody is trying to get them out with high fastballs. In fact, Paul Skenes barely throws it. Why is that? Because they're also used to trying to chase high heat. Well, he's got enough heat that he can get it by you anywhere. That's the last place he ever tries to throw it, because you're geared up to try to catch it. I think the league caught up to Bednar.
I think, if you it's a combination of things, like you said, which is stuff for whatever reason, or the control, combine it with guys really trying to combat where you can't just get dominated at the plate with high fastballs anymore. His velocity is his velocity still the same?
96, 97.
Okay.
RPMs are still the same.
Yeah.
The break is still the same.
There was always a little bit with David Bednar where you could never quite figure out how guys were swinging and missing through some of his stuff.
He had a little bit of
for a
Richard
long time.
Rodriguez to him, right?
Yeah, for a long time you were like, that should be hittable. It wasn't.
Right.
You know?
It happens though. I know, like Mike's saying here, Bednar needs to bring the splitter back and develop a changeup and get a curve snapping. Yeah, Bednar needs to be a different pitcher, is what you're saying. You know, I'm not sure that he's the type that can come in and just teach himself a new repertoire. He quit throwing the splitter because he quit throwing the splitter because he couldn't quit bouncing it, and it was more effective for him to throw that curveball to hit the bottom of the zone. And the fastball was getting outs at the top of the zone. Now, it looked today like the curveball actually turned into more of a slurve. So it's kind of a slow corner breaking pitch, which I actually like in his mix better. You know, so it does look like he's made a little bit of a change. It's not as much of a 12-6 curve anymore. I'm kind of interested to see where that goes. But the four-seam fastball, it ain't getting outs. It just isn't getting outs. And if the four-seam fastball isn't getting outs, David Bednar's not a closer. In fact, he's not a back-end bullpen guy.
No, middle relief.
Well, yeah, and that's clearly, again, it's game one. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but this is probably why it's a good idea not to hold on to it's great to have the hometown closer when things are going well and the bullets are still there in the gun. But there is a time where that could get to be a very ugly, messy situation. And what do you do with that guy when this kind of stuff happens? And the Pirates may be the least equipped franchise in all of sports to deal with something like that. That's probably the bigger issue.
Oh,
absolutely
the PR
true.
would be fascinating to watch.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk a little about your poll question, okay?
Let's do it.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Jim and Rich and me with you, and we're going to talk a little bit about your poll question, Jim. It was a good poll question. It came out right after DK wrote his article about the finances, or DK and his team of people wrote this article about the finances, and he was just interviewed actually in the pregame today on Pittsburgh Sportsnet. Talking about it a little bit with Rob King. So the team-owned station was okay with that being talked about on there. I thought that was notable. Anyways, Jim, why don't you tell me about your poll question?
I did not see that. That makes me think that they were more than pleased with the report. Just in that they found it to be something accurate. I don't know how I quite feel about that, but let's get into the poll question. So I did say, did the recent financial piece from DK Pittsburgh Sports do anything to change your opinion of Bob Nutting as it pertains to ownership of the Pittsburgh Pirates? Over 300 votes. 54% said no, not at all. It did not change their opinion one bit. 18% I give credit for just saying no, I didn't read it. 23% said yes, slightly. It did change their opinion. And 5% said yes, it greatly. It changed their opinion. Guys, what do you make of that? Because I found the original story obviously to be interesting and insightful, but then I also like to think, what's the reaction to it, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Rich, what did you think when I threw that out there, and what did it do for you specifically, if you want to go that route?
Well, when I read Dejan's article there and so forth, like it didn't, really change my feelings about Bob Nutting as an owner at all. I mean, yeah, okay, have him take out a couple loans because you're a little bit in debt and so forth. I understand that you're running a business. You can't be expected to spend $300 million of your own money, stuff like that. But there's still so much he could do to not have that happen. Am I expecting him to spend like the Red Sox or the Yankees or the Dodgers? No, that's never going to happen. Whoever owns the Pirates in the future, they would never do that either. I wouldn't. If I could buy the Pirates, I wouldn't be spending $300 million on them. No offense. As a lifelong Pirates fan, no. But you should be able to, there's no reason not to make money, at least a little bit of money each season with a Major League Baseball team. I don't care what you're spending in Dominican Republic, minor leagues, everything. But it's just like, just not Bob Nutting, no matter what, just doesn't seem, like as you've pointed out in the past, Gary, doesn't have any of the parking around the stadium, just the things he could have done that would be an additional revenue stream wouldn't be in this issue, and just, again, spend a little bit of money, you get it back tenfold, I would think, especially in Pittsburgh, who will support a winner. I mean,
yeah, he's a terrible businessman. And I mean, in that regard, I didn't change my opinion at all either, Jim. In fact, really what I took from this was, okay, they're worse off than I thought they were. That was about it. I don't think I felt bad for them or anything, because again, I've blamed them for what they do around the stadium for a long time. And I've been pretty consistent about that. What did kind of impact me had absolutely nothing to do with Deion's article. In fact, it was all the other articles that started coming out about all the other teams that are in debt. Like Minnesota is almost $400 million in debt, trying to sell their team for a valuation of $1.2 billion. And so think about what they're asking somebody to take on that debt too when they buy them, right? Like, that's the kind of trouble they got in, so they could hold on to Carlos Correa and finish third in the AL Central a couple times. There's up to 8 teams now that are in debt, we're hearing.
Yeah, that's really kind of like, on its own, the article probably didn't do much to change my opinion of Nutting. But the overarching sentiment that we're now seeing with more teams, and noticing that there are some financial problems in the game, that makes me, if this somehow by default legitimizes the Pirates and Nutting, then that's, I guess, what it has to be. It's just that there are really problems in Major League Baseball with the finances, and they're maybe even more serious than I even gave it credit for, and I knew they were serious.
I figured, like, the reason that a system like this can continue to keep plugging along is because you keep the paupers happy enough. You make sure they've got enough to feed their families. You make sure they're getting their percentage of the spoils. When you take over other kingdoms and have half their children killed in the process trying to do it, you make sure that you're trickling down enough to keep them quiet and happy and subservient, right? Seems like baseball may have kind of let go of that a little bit. They let the Dodgers go insane. They let the Mets go insane. They let the Yankees try to keep up with them and go insane. And they let them all do whatever and make as much and spend as much as they like, and they praise the hell out of them. Meanwhile, they've got a full quarter of the league falling apart. you can't function like that, Jim.
Nope.
Right. And, I'm quite sure the RSNs and the fallout from that really hurts these kinds of ball clubs,
Oh yeah.
Okay, if the Pirates were getting 50 million in it, now they're getting 25. Well, first of all, they weren't getting a lot to begin with. And then
No, 50 was considered small. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you cut that in half. Well, that 25 million is 100 million to another ball club, so
And counterpoint though, they own part of this TV station.
Sure.
Well, when you buy a TV station, don't you have to put some good friggin' shows on?
Well, I would start with the baseball team. But...
Well, I'm saying like you're selling yourself via your TV station. Make me want to watch it. It's like shaving all the Sesame Street Muppets and expecting me to watch it. Like, like they look like
Gary,
roasted turkeys walking around on Sesame Street. Get some new costumes for them.
Gary, we're not going to talk about Rich's fetishes while we're on the show now.
You remember those ratty old rags Mr. Rogers used to use? Come on now. Those things looked like they had been through some wars.
Yeah, I think to me, what I walked away from is that combined with hearing these other things that these teams are kind of going through in certain markets, is that this is a problem that's going to come to a head if enough teams start getting in this boat. And I do think baseball lost its way. These teams that are at the top, they're not stopping, right? They're going to keep pushing that envelope until they're told they can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine, by the way.
Yeah, can't blame them.
Can't blame them. Set up that way. Good for them. Good for the fans of those teams. But
I say it all the time. It's exactly what I would want my team to do is do the most you could possibly do. I am a fan of a team that literally worked themselves into bankruptcy to give me 2 Stanley Cups. And a salary cap saved the franchise. Like, it's that simple. Like, they in an effort to keep up with teams they should not have financially been able to keep up with, they spent themselves into bankruptcy to give me 2 Stanley Cups. Should have been 3, damn it. But
not now. It's already Gary.
They gave me 2 Stanley Cups and almost lost the franchise because of it. The league was broken. Like, this league is getting close, man.
It's reaching critical mass. It really
What'd you think of what Jeff Passan said the other day on social media about, like, how could you want to shut down this era of baseball because they're so pure and the Dodgers are so brilliant? That's always about how brilliant they are. It's not about the endless supply.
Passan said this
of
is
money.
a great era of baseball. It's like, no, it's not. There are some great there are generational players, Ohtani, Soto, Skenes, if he stays healthy. They're generational type players, but it's not a great era. I'm sorry. When you have, I'm a 10-year-old fan. Why should I be a fan of the Pirates? Why should I be a fan of O'Neill Cruz or Paul Skenes? My team doesn't spend money to win. I'm hearing they're in debt. I hear people talk, I'm going to lose my favorite player in 5 years. There's just nothing there to really latch on to the next generation. I mean, us three, we're lifelong baseball fans, whether we want to be or not. Because it was different when we were we're in the 80s, But a 10-year-old kid, or like Ben, what is there about baseball that's better than the football or basketball or hockey or even soccer? Nothing. It's becoming, it's going to be a marginalized sport that makes the most money, but still be marginalized, where you're just going to have, just not as much interest. And they keep saying, well, you can contract teams. Why are you going to contract teams? They always talk, remember they talk about contracting the Pirates or contracting the Twins or the A's. Those teams have history. You can't contract them. You know,
I mean,
you want to try to
you
take
you
take out the
can.
Diamondbacks,
I mean,
you know.
you can. I mean, like the Quebec Nordiques had history. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm just saying that you can,
You
I-
can,
but
but you
but
shouldn't.
Yeah, I think
there should be other ways to fix it, right? I mean, like I guess like this always we talked about this so early on, Jim, about the salary cap and how the Pirates are the worst possible team to be talking about it
they're the worst poster child for it.
because they don't do anything that they could be doing to put themselves in a position where they at least have a shot at treading water in this league, like Milwaukee does. You know, like
Padres. The Padres are a
yeah,
good poster child for it.
Padres. Well, Padres were a good poster
Yeah,
child.
yeah,
for
they
it.
were, but yeah.
Yeah, they will be again soon as the Suns win the lawsuit against the daughter. Then they'll be right back to where they were.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like things that Bob Nutting has not even attempted to do, doesn't try to do, can't do. There are caps to that. There is so much that can actually be done where it's not his fault anymore. And that gap now has gotten to the point where even if he does everything he possibly could, they're not touching even midpoint of the league. That's where I feel these teams are at this point.
Yeah, I guess when
I
look
don't want
at
to
this,
lose
like,
baseball for 2 years. Bottom line question before we because we got to wrap the show up. We're getting long. Bottom line question for the salary cap: are you willing to pay the price that it would cost? Baseball could go
Yeah.
away for a year or two.
Yes, I am, because I love the sport too much that to keep it going like this, I just don't want to see it going down the road it's going. It's like I said, it's going to be a marginalized sport. So I'd be all for a work stoppage. I mean, I don't think there's any other, once the CBA comes up, I don't think there's any other reason. I mean, the Pirates and all these other teams need to say, no, we're done with this. You know, I'm sorry, Andrew Miller, you need a salary cap. You know, I mean, it's nice that Soto gets $600 million, but what if I'm Nick Gonzales? What if I want to, over my career, make 10,000 or 10 million a year, you know, as opposed, you know, under a salary cap system? I think as the rank and file would want that, you know. Obviously, they
agree.
have no idea. They have
Jim,
no
what
idea.
about you? Because very direct prices. We'd probably lose a year or two of Paul Skenes watching him pitch. We'd lose a year or two of watching Shohei Ohtani do what he's doing. Like, you know, historic things. You and I are history nuts for this game. We don't want to see that happen. I still get pissed off about what was unfinished in '94.
No, I always think back to '94 because even I walked away from baseball for a few years. I was so disgusted. So
I
that
think the game needs a salary cap. I think you agree with me. I know Rich
Mhm.
does. I guess the question really is, though, are we willing to pay the price? We will pay a price.
I'll say yes, I am, but it will be devastating in the short term. Like
Yes, it would.
it will be devastating. And my mind immediately goes to Gary. I think like as we've gotten more involved in this and talked to players and things, you mentioned Skenes. I think of a Connor Griffin and, you know, at his age and then the sport being shut down for 2 years. So I try not to flippantly say it because I think of that stuff, you know, what it affects people's lives. So
The thing
don't
is,
pay
though, the reason that I have to ask the question in that fashion is because the players, it's not even about them agreeing to this. They're never going to agree to it. Like,
No, they're not.
no players in any leagues ever agreed to it. There's a lockout or a strike, and then they realize, hey, that's the only place I can really do what I do and get paid to do it. So let's go talk to them at least. And then they settle for a cap system. Then they negotiate what that cap system looks like for the next 6 months to 8 months to 9 months to, like, they'll agree to a cap long before they have a cap. That's why I always say it's going to be a year or two.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
takes a long time. Took the NHL, they agreed to a cap, and I think I wrote down it was like 172 days, but they missed an entire season.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And I do think something that would be smart for the owners to do is start targeting the numbers in baseball and the players. Make it for more beneficial to the younger guys. If it hurts the top earners, so be it. But start catering to the 80% of the league that isn't even close to being in that situation, and then get that change to come from within, because right now it's way more about the power structure in the MLBPA, and that they won't upset the top of it. But you have the numbers. If you could just start making it more attractive for them, then I think you make some headway.
This is your fault we had this conversation on opening day, Derek Shelton. You should have won today.
Yeah, and listen. Yeah, if this game goes the way it's supposed to, we don't even talk about my poll. We're just talking about Rich shaving Muppets, and the Pirates are 1-0.
Yeah, we're just talking about how great it's going to be when we're 161-1. You know, when the season's over. Anyways, long discussion, good stuff. Loved it all. Rich, great having you back on, brother. Hope
Thank you,
everything
guys.
stays
Appreciate
sunny out there.
Send
Try to
us some
avoid
good-
natural disasters for a couple months out there in California.
I'm trying. It's tough out here. It's tough.
Well, send us some good weather magic, meteorology style, for opening weekend for Pirates Yankees. There's some rain in the forecast. So talk to whoever you need to talk to
I'll
sort
talk
that
to the
out.
Pittsburgh office. Don't worry. I'll talk to them, see what I can do for you.
Perfect.
Thanks, brother. Good stuff, everybody. And till next week, let's toss it off to the man of the hour.
Let's go, Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.